pizza, and a choice beverage. What could be better? But wait, I feel something is amiss.
The stars have not aligned.
No, we must amend the situation. I think we should get a video game. Come on. Nope, can't look at any of these until I get a capture card.
I don't even have any snarky comments about this room. This is pretty close to how I'd want my room to look. Except maybe a bit more in it than SEGA memorabilia.
Atratzu! Time for food!
Coming, mother!
Okay, considering this review is going to focus on Sonic the Hedgehog, maybe I should be eating chili dogs rather than pizza. But you know what? I don't even like chili dogs, and that's a contrivance the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog came up with.
Someone say chili dogs?
Cool! You're just in time for lunch.
Better make some for yourself, too.
But here, have a chili dog. So this review is going to be in part talking about the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis Classics launcher, and part talking about Sonic the Hedgehog himself. So the whole setup and explanation for this review is a bit weird. Basically, I saw Sonic the Hedgehog in a Humble Bundle and thought, well crap, I've always wanted to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles on my PC again. You see, our family actually picked up Sonic 3 and Knuckles from an Office Max, or something like that when we were kids. I wish I still had it so I could show you. But here's a picture of the disc. I can't find the right CD case art though, because we bought it on the cheap. Of course it was. We bought it from a freaking office supplies retailer. We'll talk more about Sonic 3 another time. The reason I'm bringing it up is because the CD also had the original Sonic game on it. We just played Sonic 3 more because it actually saved your game. The footage you'll be seeing in this video will be shown through the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis Classics launcher, only not completely and truly through the launcher. Here, let me show you what I mean. So this is how the game looks in the emulation. It's like they're trying to simulate a CRT TV screen for us rather than a widescreen computer monitor like I'm using. And I don't know about you, but playing one level with this weird bent, broken resolution is enough to disorient me. So let's not look at it anymore. I'll turn it off. It's a neat effect, and maybe it would be more impactful if it was VR compatible, and more importantly, if I owned a VR headset, but as it stands, this is just making the gameplay look super weird on my monitor. So here we are, looking at the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. The year was 1991. I was a chubby baby crawling around on the floor, chilling with the family dog, but that's not historical, just cute. Sega's Sega Genesis console had been released since 1989. It was time for a legend to be born. Sega was competing in the game market with Nintendo and decided to develop a character who could act as Sega's mascot, a mascot to compete with Nintendo's Mario. Eventually, the team decided on a blue hedgehog in bright red shoes, and thus Sonic the Hedgehog was born. Depending on which line of Sonic lore you choose to follow, we can talk about the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a very American-esque, almost Looney Tunes variation of Sonic, and of course where this whole chili dog nonsense came from. Actually, I wonder if you can get chili dogs from the Sonic restaurant. Sonic menu. Let's go here. Okay, so they have burgers, breakfast, chicken, hot dogs. This should be where it would be. Chili cheese Coney? What have you monsters done with Connie? Where is she? When was the last time she saw her family? Sorry, I'm really getting off on tangents this time. There's also the Archie comic series. By the way, the ones my brother owned were quite good, and more dramatic and full of humor than you might expect, based on other aspects of Sonic lore. There's Sonic X, Sonic Underground.
Okay, let's keep it simple. I would rather look at the Sonic games from their own story without any influence from any other mediums like the comic books or the animated series.
The story for the first Sonic game is super simple. Sonic is trying to save his little animal friends from the, quote, evil, end quote, Dr. Robotnik, whom eventually gets renamed or nicknamed to Eggman. They say he's evil, but he never really seems to set up his diabolical plans well enough to prevent Sonic from defeating him. And considering he's supposed to be a genius with an IQ of 300, either he's actually an idiot, or he's not really trying. I like to imagine he's just a quirky weirdo who loves the thrill of the chase. Like the villains in Freakazoid. They're kind of villains, but they're also squishy, lovable characters too. As with all Sonic games, you only get the true final ending if you succeed in collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Part of me wants to just brush over the Chaos Emeralds and just leave it at that. But no, I can't. What are these things? Where do they come from? Is it explained? Where do Chaos Emeralds come from? Okay. The Chaos Emeralds' background are shrouded in mystery and no one knows where they come from. Well, guess that answers that. Moving on. The controls for Sonic the Hedgehog are very straightforward. You press right to move right, you press left to move left, you press A or S to jump on the keyboard, and A if you are using an Xbox controller. Speaking of which, you can use the Xbox controller, but only if you're using the game launcher and not the simple launcher. Another reason you might not want to run the emulation mode and instead go with the simple launcher is, on my laptop, which is a piece of junk, it overheats when I run the game through the emulation. So it's a bit easier on your computer if you use the simple launcher instead. Naturally, the controls feel better on a controller, but they're quite doable with a keyboard and mouse. Something interesting I keep forgetting about Sonic 1, or Sonic the Hedgehog 1991 if you prefer, is that Sonic doesn't have his Spin Dash ability. Sonic didn't get Spin Dash until Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was released November 21st, 1992. I'm surprised he didn't have this ability at launch though, but I guess you have a close enough effect just by pressing down and spinning. As a kid, I always thought if I could somersault fast enough, I could legitimately do what Sonic does. I was an impressionable child. So with any classic platformer, the controls are straightforward and the gameplay concepts are simple. In 2D Sonic games specifically, the idea is you start on the left of the level and you run to the right. Normally taking higher paths will yield better rewards, that being extra lives, more rings, power-ups, etc. Sonic was also around at the time of high scores.
So you could go back to the high school and tell your friends how awesome you are and your amazing high scores on Green Hill Zone.
Did anyone actually do that? 'Cause I never did that. The level layout is Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Then you'd move on to the next world, or zone. Act 1 and 2 are what I think of as typical Sonic levels, where you have the opportunity to collect rings and get Chaos Emeralds at the end of the stage, if you collect enough rings. Act 3 is 1 part normal level, 1 part boss fight. Something I also liked about older games is just how different each area is from the last, speaking graphically. This, of course, was back in the time when design choices were made more carefully because of hardware limitations. Each Sonic level is dramatically different looking visually from the last, and it's just kind of a footnote when it comes to elements I notice when I play a game, but it goes the extra mile in making a game all that more memorable. Something else I should note about the classic Sonic games is I forgot just how much you can't see what's coming. Honestly, could they zoom out the camera a tiny bit more? Actually, no, it was probably the limitation of the hardware at the time, but going back to it is rough, okay? If you want to get through a Sonic game, you have two choices. Run blindly and run into stuff, or memorize the whole level. A quick comment about the power-ups, or I guess you could refer to them as the stuff you get inside of these computer monitor box looking things. You can get a shield, which will let you take an extra hit, rings, or an extra life, as depicted by Sonic's face. Speaking of shields letting you take an extra hit, I'm sure virtually everyone knows Sonic doesn't have health. He has rings. If you get poked by a passive-aggressive sprite, Sonic will leap high into the air, and all the rings he has collected will spring out of his body. This was super frustrating for me as a child, because I would go from hundreds of rings down to 11 or 12 rings. Against bosses, though, this is a godsend, because you can just keep juggling the same ring over and over and over. It's also worth noting that your shield and rings can't save you from certain types of death. I'm specifically thinking about being crushed, or falling down holes, or out of the level. There might be more, but I'm repressing the memories for my sanity's sake.
I'm waiting. Hey, I'm growing a beard out here.
In conclusion, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 1991, or whatever you want to call it, is still a very attractive looking game. The Sega Mega Drive and Genesis Classics launcher is nifty and not trash. It works on my Windows 10 computer. I always mention and marvel about how well put together old retro games are, and the graphics for Sonic 1 will always be timeless. Naturally, it's a nostalgia trip for myself. It takes me back to pajamas with feet, and playing with plastic army men in the sandbox outside. That was because my mom wouldn't let me sit inside and play video games. But I'm an adult now, Mom. I can play video games inside if I want to. And if you're watching this, Mom, I love you. I'm sorry that I turned out this way, but this is how I get my creative energies out. This review is to act as a sort of springboard to give context for future Sonic games I'll cover. I wanted to start with a good base before jumping into the chaos, which is what the Sonic franchise has mostly become. I did pick up the Sonic Humble Bundle after all, so it's not like I'm lacking in ammo or opinions on the other games on the Sega Mega Drive or Sonic Bundle games. Anyway,
Thank you for watching. As always, the trifecta: like, comment, and subscribe if you want to help the channel grow. Now then, some of these older retro games are downright brutal. Stay tuned next time for my next Atratzu review, where we will review another brutal game. My name is Atratzu, and I approve this review. Also, this is grape juice.